So, ladies and gentlemen, here at XCO 2018, it's now time to welcome our next distinguished speaker, coming all the way from London. He's going to be providing us information about the convergence continuum, the future of retail. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Managing Director of IM Group, Mr. Jon Blakeney. Hi, Jon.
Merhaba. We've spent the last 6 months interviewing millennials in both UK and Turkey. And what we're interested in finding out is their retail behavior. And what I'm going to share with you this morning, we're actually launching on the 7th of June at the Design Museum in the UK. Please, if anybody is in London on the 7th of June, you're very welcome. But this is the first time this data will be shown in Turkey. We've literally just finished it. We spoke to over 3,000 millennials, 20 to 35-year-olds, who are living in cities, multiple cities in both UK and Turkey. And so what I'm going to show you are their views on what they're doing in the retail sphere. How do they shop? How do they like to shop? What do they love? What do they hate? First statistic that we had to go back and check a number of times because it's hard to believe is the one over on the left. 55% of the people that we spoke to in Turkey, when they were given the choice of where would you like to shop, would you like to go to the mall, would you like to go to a high street, 55% said we would prefer to shop online, compared with only 26% in the UK. You know far better than I whether you believe that and whether you see that happening in the businesses that you run, but it's a dramatic shift to show the power that online shopping is bringing. And that's if you go into that a little bit more detail, more women than men are preferring shopping online. And a lot of what's happening, as we know, is research and browsing, not just actually online purchasing. What we then looked at is, okay, people are increasingly enjoying the pleasure of either browsing or shopping online. What's causing that? Well, it's not just the enjoyment they're getting from online, it's also something to do with retail. Retail is obviously failing in some way to cause this effect. Between the UK and Turkey, these 3 things that people hate most about going to the shops are absolutely consistent. The thing they hate most is queuing. And if you look at we do a lot of experience design all over the world for retailers and banks and restaurants, etc. The thing that people hate most, particularly millennials, who are a very difficult audience to please and retain, is queuing. They hate lining up, that whole process of waiting to pay for something you've already enjoyed browsing and buying. Also, they get frustrated at not being able to find what they want. The online experience is so great at aggregating a selection that's just for you, multiple brands, etc., etc. Then you go to the old world, a store, and you have to work at it. You know, you have to work. You have to rely on the fact that the retailer has invested the time in laying out the store. So they find it frustrating that they just can't find what they want. What could you do to improve that aspect? Also, they get really frustrated that they can't compare prices. There's that doubt in the back of your mind when you've picked up something that you really like the look of. Is that a smart buy? Could I get it cheaper elsewhere? Do I leave it here and go back and do some research online? So those 3, I think, are a great brief for anybody who's working in the retail world. How can you remove those pain points from your current experience? Also, what do they love? Okay, we've looked at, it's probably most important to start with what they hate, but it's also important to understand about, do people still love shopping? It's the tactile experience of shopping that is literally irreplaceable. Not only getting the product in your hands, but also the interaction perhaps with another human. So the tangibility of retail, whatever your product is so important to remember. Don't forget the value of getting the product into people's hands. What does that mean? Does it mean trying it on, tasting it. All of those things are equally important, but it's the tactility of retail that will retain its value. Also, it's the possibility of discovering something new. Can you offer somebody a bit of a surprise on their trip that allows them to encounter perhaps a service or a product that they weren't expecting? So deliberately consider the unexpected. This is not just true about millennials, but it is something that is fundamental to understanding how they behave. There's a desperate, addictive relationship with their smartphone that is divisive and not necessarily always positive, but it's an unavoidable reality. 64% of the people that we spoke to in Turkey and 51% in UK, so similar, say half of the people at least, would really like the opportunity to use their phone as their navigator of the physical retail experience because they love their phone so much. So they would like to navigate the store, they'd like you to give them information on their phone while they're shopping, and they would like the phone to be the interface to the physical experience. They would find that comforting. They trust their phone, they're very familiar with it. They would like you to glue together those two elements in one seamless, smart experience. It's a very powerful bit of insight. How many retailers, I'm going to show you some examples of retailers that are doing that, but relatively few are gluing together those two elements in one singular experience. Staff is a staffing, the recruitment of staff, the training and their roles is one of the biggest factors in the world of retail and hospitality. It's expensive, it's difficult, all of those things. Are they really adding value to the experience? Think about how much time and energy goes into the whole area of staffing, those of you who are working in HR. 56% of the 20 to 35-year-olds that we spoke to actually think the staff are hindering the shopping experience. So more than half of the people think if you didn't have the staff, my whole experience would be easier. Now fine, perhaps the other half, they do want help, but something's going fundamentally wrong if more than half your customers think that the staff that you've invested in aren't really adding value to the experience. Great opportunity there. So then you think, okay, well, where does that lead you as a retailer? Do you forget staff altogether? 47% would be happy to shop in an environment without any people. This is a store in the Netherlands, a sneak store in the Netherlands, where you browse and the robot then selects your size and delivers the experience for you. Doesn't require any people. So increasingly, maybe we're going to start to see more automated retail experiences in environments where maybe the staff don't need to add value. But certainly the understanding of the role of staff is a key question, I think, for everybody to ask themselves. What can they do? How can staff add value? Well, number one, they need to know what they're talking about. How else are they adding value to the experience? If they're purely providing a mechanical service that could be done in an automated way, is that a sustainable future? So knowledge. 89% of the people that we spoke to in Turkey felt that the staff needed more knowledge. There is an appetite amongst millennials for knowledge. They're happy to listen to people with expertise, but at nearly 90% of your potential customers think you aren't arming your staff with enough knowledge. So what does that mean? You're recruiting the wrong people, you're not giving them the training, they don't love their job, but it's a real failing. This one, I think, is fascinating, and it's part of a trend that in the last 5 years is just building more and more momentum. we're always getting different briefs in our 4 studios. Each week we get different briefs from all over the world, and the briefs that we're starting to see arrive now are about turning retail experiences into social learning experiences. 5 years ago, we would never have got a brief where a retailer wants to teach people. Why would a retailer want to teach somebody something? So the learning, the social learning, the role of retail as a social learning platform is becoming increasingly powerful. 77% of the millennials that we spoke to in Turkey would actually come back to a retail experience more often if you offer them inspirational learning, collaborative experiences. Such a powerful opportunity there to start to engage with people on a much, much deeper level. Really, really great. And you'll see that happening more and more around the world. As less retail space is required, the repurposing of the space that is there is starting to happening, and social learning you'll see happening more and more. This is a pretty obvious one, really, but I'll share it with you anyway. When do people browse? What are they doing? Well, before bedtime. There's that period, perhaps, sometimes, sort of post, perhaps finishing eating before going to bed. That's the period, the hotspot, where people are browsing most. And so they are doing this on a continual basis. If you look at the number of hours that they're dedicating per week, it's going up and up and up. So this is continual behavior, day after day after day, that is a continual seam sitting as an undercurrent to the physical experiences. Click and collect is another interesting area. And it's starting to define new retail typologies. So 87% of the people would like to be able to not only collect their product, but they'd like to try it on at the same place and return it at the same place if they could do that. So it goes far beyond the sort of Amazon-style locker. This becomes a retail experience. I'll show you an example where Zara are starting to form retail experiences just built around the concept of not browsing, not selecting, but picking up, trying on. So it's right at the end of the browsing and choosing experience. The British, I think, were once described as a nation of shopkeepers. People in the UK love shopping, and I think it's also very true of Turkey. There aren't very many things that unite Turkey and the UK, but I think a passion for shopping happens to be one of them. And if you look at the statistics, again, these are millennials. 88% went out for shopping as a day out, as a pleasurable day out in the last week. It's not disappearing. It's not going anywhere. People talk about channels, almost like railway lines that run in parallel universes. All of that thinking is increasingly irrelevant. It's not the way to describe something that is far more complex. Just because I do more of one thing doesn't mean I'm doing less of something else. It's not an up and down scale. So the love of shopping, the pleasure of shopping, is not disappearing. What we need to understand as designers and brand managers and owners of retail experiences, we have to understand what's changing in the usage of these experiences so that we can be ahead of what people expect. But they still love shopping, and they're doing it an awful lot. So that's just a little snapshot. This is a much deeper report. If you'd like access to the report, the official portal will be going live on 7th of June. Please speak to us afterwards, and we'll give you the download code if you're interested in looking at the full report. What we've then done, just to try, statistics are useful, but they don't lead you anywhere. So what we've done is to assemble some trends looking to the future, where we've given you examples of retailers who are right now trialing concepts based on the statistics that we've just learned that I hope might help you in the future. The first one is Attitude Flex, we're calling it, and it's about retailers who are creating different experiences according to the mindset or the mission that customer is on. First one is Target. This is in Richmond in Texas. This is like a sort of yin and yang store within one space. It's like a left brain, right brain store. So part of the experience is if you're busy, you're on a mission, it's a very sort of left brain experience. You need to get in and out. Part of the store is that has its own entrance. The other part of the store is if you just want to take your time. You're there for the afternoon, you want to take it at your pace, separate entrance there. A bizarre marriage of two mindsets within one experience. Because the way you would merchandise and browse would be fundamentally different depending on your mindset. This is the Zara test. So Zara have completed this test, and it was extremely successful. This was conducted in the UK in London. It's where you collect your product that you've ordered online, you try it out, determine whether you're happy with it, you return it if you need to. Much, much smaller footprint. But I think it's something you will see far more of. This example, for me, is fascinating. It's probably a long way off happening, but I think it could unlock enormous potential. It's about streaming. This is a cheese shop in the Netherlands, and this is the owner of the cheese shop. They did a collaboration with ABN AMRO. This is streamed live. You can go on and watch this yourselves. You can interact with the shopkeeper. You can direct message the shopkeeper. He will show you the cheese and talk about the qualities of the cheese. Cut a piece of cheese up. You can see the texture and the size. He'll talk about the flavor. Meanwhile, customers are coming in and they're buying their cheese and they're going away. You're watching the experience real time. Fascinating. You think what that does, it gives you a flavor of a real shopping experience. You can buy there and then. This shop could be anywhere. It could be in the most remotest, low-cost location you like, but what it's offering is something akin to a real retail experience online. So suddenly location and cost of location and all of those things, time differences, all of those, become much, much less relevant to offering a rich retail experience. You're seeing a lot of these all over the world. It's not a new phenomenon. Nike Town, etc. Nike have been doing things like this for 20 years. But the quantity of what we're calling pompous playgrounds is really, really gaining momentum. First one, I don't know if any of you have seen Adidas started this concept in 2016. They trialed it throughout 2017. It's now being rolled out. This large format store concept is all about performance, and more than performance, it's about real-time performance. It's about trying product on, testing the product, learning from it. So it's Adidas wanting to really collaborate with its customers and learn from that experience. It's much more interactive, much more involving, where they're encouraging you to try the product out and learn from that. It's not just about shopping. Sephora in the same way, this is about playing and exploring within a Sephora experience and sharing. So the sharing aspect of this experience, the aura that it creates beyond the store itself, is far more important to Sephora than just the sales that are happening in store. And finally, probably for me, the biggest and best, this is the Samsung Digital Playground, which again has almost its life has run parallel to what Adidas are doing. It was trialed throughout last year, launched in 2016. This is not about selling phones. It's 4 or 5 floors of immersive digital learning experience, about learning about the power of digital and how Samsung can fit within that. Incredible virtual reality experiences. You navigate through the experience using your phone. Truly inspirational on a scale that we really haven't seen before, trying to influence people about the power of Samsung, not sell you a phone. At the completely sort of opposite end of the scale, people are looking at slowing down the retail experience, taking the pain and the stress out of retail to create an alternative. So slow shopping is starting to happen, whether that's digital with the icebox that Google are introducing, where to take away that frenetic buzz that people get from ordering online, you can pop it in an icebox, gives you a cooling off period before that purchase is then activated. It's slowing down the pace of purchase. Or this example by Giro in Zagreb, where it's a fashion store and the focus of the whole experience is not only the staff, the quality of the staff, but it's actually the changing rooms. The changing rooms and the trying on of the product with a glass of champagne and great advice becomes the focus of the experience. It's not the browsing, it's about the advice you're getting and the trying on at a nice, slow pace. Also, people are exploring the use of digital technology more and more. So Net-a-Porter is starting to use AI, launched this recently, where they're starting to be able to predict outfit combinations for a particular event that's coming up in your life. So they're going back, analyzing historical data, they're offering real-time solutions to you, and also during that interaction, you can flip to the advice with a real person and switch the AI off. So you're going from physical to digital, in and out during the same experience. Zara, so 2 examples from Zara. You can see how innovative. There are a few people around the world in the retail sphere I think who are really innovative at the moment. One is McDonald's, showing exceptional innovation around the world. If you look at how McDonald's are using GPS in their restaurants to give you waitress service at your table, who would have thought that would happen at McDonald's? And Zara. So Zara, realizing the power and the addiction of the phone, allowing you to browse, and they're presenting you augmented reality experiences while you're browsing. You pick up the shirt, it shows you a model wearing that exact shirt, all the different color combinations while you're looking at that product. Saves you the time maybe of even going to try it on. So they are looping together the 2 physical and digital strands in one experience, and your phone becomes the navigator. Again, I think we'll see more and more of this happening. That's it. In summary, what we see happening is a fundamental change from those parallel rail tracks to something that is more akin to a DNA helix, where the different strands that form physical and digital experiences are beginning to intertwine into a singular space-time continuum that hasn't really been seen before and will continue to evolve into the future. Thank you very much.